geography. So this is on the First Barbary War, which is technically America's first war as a nation. Because the American Revolutionary War was fought to gain its independence. Now it is independent. It is independent. So a little background. The Barbary War comes from the Berbers, which are like an Arab people in North Africa. And they set up these client states of the Ottoman Empire, the Regency of Algiers, Tunis, Tripolitania, and Morocco, which correspond to like the modern countries of Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Morocco. Surprise, surprise. The Barbary states were entirely built on piracy, as they would take captured goods or people, and then the people would become slaves, and it would enter the slave markets in the Ottomans, and they would they're autonomous in the Ottoman Empire. But once they captured the slaves, they'd usually just send them to Constantinople, and they would enter the general slave market.
Wait, no, it would not be called Constantinople, it would be called Istanbul.
Well, until 1830, but it's not 1830 yet. Right, so here's a little background. Ever since the independence of the United States, Barbary pirates would capture American ships, especially the trading ships, and demand a ransom, and the Federalists usually paid this ransom. And the crisis increased after the American Revolution as the French stopped protecting our Navy, and also the Navy was disbanded for a while. And in 1795, 150 American sailors, which is the original spark of this incident, were released for $1 million. This was a sixth of the U.S. budget at the time, which is pretty impressive. So Adams responded, partly due to the quasi-war and this, to make the Department of the Navy and then add a naval secretary to prevent the further attacks.
Good.
And the pirates kept demanding ransom, especially Tripoli. And Jefferson, when he was president, did not want to pay this ransom, so he denied that payment. And this caused the Pasha, which is like the leader, to declare war on May 10th, 1801.
What happened to the Department of the Navy?
The Navy and the war merged into defense.
Okay.
So it's technically still there, but not under that name. First days of war. Jefferson signed an act creating the war, but it wasn't really like an official declaration of war, which is why it's not really regarded by most historians as a real war, rather like a military intervention like Vietnam. So he authorized the construction of 6 frigates.
I think called Vietnam, you don't want people to know attack. You don't want to offend people, but in reality it's totally a war. You don't want to
It's totally a war. So yeah, some of these frigates are still actually either like still exist today or they're still in action. So some of the other nations that were participating in this at the time were the Kingdom of Sicily, because at this point Italy was just a loose confederation of states, all of which their own little thing. Ferdinand IV actually had really big problems with the Barbary corsairs, as they were attacking his ships too. So he was pretty generous by providing Americans with men and ammunition. And Sicily served as a resting point for America's ships throughout the war. And Commodore Edward Preble, so he was the main guy behind this in the first phase of the war. And he was pretty famous for actually like yelling at a British ship because he almost risked getting fired on by the British. He commands the USS Enterprise, like the Star Trek Enterprise, but not really. The opening battle saw the USS Enterprise fight the Tripoli, which is a ship, and Preble won. Yay us! And then, to make it a little bit more official, Congress passed a quote-unquote declaration of war for it was really an act for the protection of the U.S. against Barbary corsairs. And I do believe I'm direct quoting that. Okay, so here are some of the ships in action. I know Constellation, I'm pretty sure that's a picture of the Constellation, which is now in Baltimore Harbor, but it's not in its original form. It's been like remodeled. But it has seen active service, and I think it's now like a national park or something. It's like right next to the aquarium, so that's pretty cool. Constitution was probably one of the oldest ships. Enterprise, as I said before. Intrepid will come a little bit down the road in Philadelphia. So here's some battles. one of the earlier losses of America was that the Philadelphia was captained by William Bainbridge, and he was stuck over a reef. And as for that part, Bainbridge was captured, and all of his crew was taken as hostages by Tripoli. And I'm pretty sure that Bainbridge made a really crucial decision while he was getting captured. Before the Tripolitanians boarded the ship, I think he ordered that all the ammunition cannons be thrown off the ship to prevent the Tripolitanians from using them. And then, so the Philadelphia was taken back to Tripoli Harbor. So then Edward Preble had to design the next phase of attack, and he ordered Stephen Decatur, because he was pretty much the only one brave enough to do it, to go capture the Philadelphia, and if it could not move, burn it as a last resort. So Decatur did just that. He rushed in the middle of night, and he was able to park himself right next to the Philadelphia without being caught. They had on them a Sicilian who knew Arabic, so they were able to speak their language, and they disguised the ship as a Tripoli merchant ship.
Well, it was a Tripoli merchant ship they captured, right? So it was trying to run the blockade in.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. The Swedish had a blockade of Tripoli, which was semi-effective.
The Swedish?
Yeah, the Swedish. I know. Sweden participated in the war.
Sweden is here, like...
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea why. So yeah, surprisingly, Stephen Decatur's little expedition to go capture the Philadelphia, but eventually the burning of it, did not take a single casualty. And I think there was one guy that was wounded, and Decatur made sure that he was the last to escape. So he's like a really cool guy, and he's like, I find him really fascinating. It even caught the attention of Lord Nelson, which I think was stationed in Gibraltar at the time, and he called it the most bold and daring act of the age. So yeah. And then, so William Eaton was also part of this war. The Pasha of Tripoli actually assumed power because he ousted his brother, whose name I probably shouldn't trouble you with. Or actually, it's really easy. The Pasha's name was Yusuf Karmakali, and he ousted his brother Hamet Karmakali. Hamet had taken refuge in Egypt, either in Cairo or Alexandria, and Eaton uncovered this, so he had a plan to restore Hamet to the throne if Hamet gathered supporters and then marched to Tripoli. So it was a really mutual alliance, and William Eaton marched across North Africa from Egypt to Libya, or Egypt to Tripoli, and then he almost got to the city of Tripoli, where he defeated Tripoli's army at the Battle of Dern, all of it, and so Tripoli was now left without a military. This is a picture from the Battle of Dern. And this is how, like, the U.S. Marines gets the line in their anthem, "To the shores of Tripoli." They're talking about the Battle of Dern. So, Tobias Lear was the secretary of George Washington, right up until he died. And I think he recorded Washington's final quotes and what he did and stuff. So, throughout the war, Lear had tried to make a peace treaty with them, and now that the Battle of Dern had pretty much wrecked the Tripoli military, he forced Tripoli into paying $60,000 to the Americans, and all the American hostages that were captured throughout the war were released. They was able to prove that America could, in fact, win a war on its own. The Revolutionary War, obviously, they had support from the Dutch, the French, and the Spanish, but this is the first time that the Americans actually won a war on their own. And it was not the end. In 1812, Algeria began using piracy again. They were capturing U.S. sailors, but this is during the final phase, America had to wait until the War of 1812 because they had obviously bigger problems. And once it ended, the U.S. sent a small squadron off, and it was able to defeat the Algerians pretty quickly. So, yeah, and one might argue that there was a third Barbary War, which is technically like the Libyan Revolution of 2011 where they ousted Gaddafi, but I wouldn't look too much into that. And that's pretty much it, yeah.
Well done, thank you, sir.